for free. Okay. Now, to effectively deal with children's behavior, guess whose behavior we have to deal with first? Teacher behavior. We've already talked a little bit about this. In most of your schools here, you've probably got a screamer. Right? Teacher who screams. My gut level is that if you walk into the teacher's lounge and Gloria is our screamer, we're not going to see teachers going, wow, Gloria, I heard you screaming all the way down the hall. Is there anything I can do to help, Gloria? What do we usually hear in the teacher's lounge? It was that Anderson kid, wasn't it? I had the brother, the whole damn family's like that. Right? We almost support each other's crazy behavior. We don't see the principals calling Gloria in and saying, Gloria, I heard you screaming all the way down the hall. Is there anything I can do to support you better? Who has to face the screamer?
Kids.
The third graders. That we will send a class of third graders in to deal with an adult that none of us have the courage to talk to. Should keep us awake at night. Doesn't seem to bother us in the least. Right? That should be a real issue. Plus the fact that we've got a... Why is she screaming? Was Gloria going at one point going, you know, boy, I've got to get a job. I've got to pay rent. I've got to have a car. I've got to eat. What do I do well? I scream pretty good. I wonder what I could do and get paid for screaming. I could be a teacher. They'll pay me to scream. Was that what's going on there? No. Why is Gloria screaming? She's frustrated. That we would allow a colleague to be that frustrated should be a problem for us. Okay? So part of what we've got to do is open up that privacy. You know, again, part of what we've done is, you know, these methods that I talked to you before about collecting data. We go into schools and we do different kind of things. Some schools we've worked with actually have identified positions. Teacher collaborator, somebody that they give a portion of the time free. So fourth period, you're available. Any teacher that has a kid that they're concerned about at fourth period, they can call you to come in. You're just another teacher. You're going to observe and give them feedback. You're not part of an evaluation team. It's never going to go into their evaluation at all. It's just between you and them. Come watch me and give me some feedback. We've had other schools where we've said, okay, let's just do some technological supports. Audio tape yourself. Go in with a 120-minute tape. Put it on record, put it on the shelf. Listen to yourself. And again, don't listen to that first 20 minutes as you're going, good morning, welcome. I am so happy you're all here today. This is just wonderful. You can only sustain that for about 20 minutes, then you'll get into your regular teaching. Listen to yourself. Are you excited about how you're teaching? Would you like to learn from you? Are you enthusiastic? Are you clear? Whose name means stop it? Right? Listen to yourself. Turn it way down as you're driving home. Put it in kind of, I was like, whoa, something just woke up in the class. Rewind it a little bit, put it on play. It's like, that's the best answer for all day, Kathy. Give me 5. Good job. Or was it, I said, sit down. What are you choosing to punctuate? Whatever you're punctuating, trust me, that's where the kid's behavior is going. If you want even worse, audio tape yourself. Now, if I would watch this audio tape, I would hate it. First of all, I'd say, I'm not that big, right? And my voice doesn't sound like that, right? And I wonder if that job at McDonald's is still open, because I obviously don't do this very well, okay? Audio tape's even scarier. The one that if I were going to be doing any one thing in a school, if I were going back to my school, if I were an administrator, is this third thing. That's peer triads. We've now done 3 studies. We started off as an aggression study. One of the things we know is that drive-by in-services don't work. For the most part, even these kind of things, as we come in and we talk what's going on, most of you are going to go back to your school, hit the brick wall of the reality of your school, and very little of this will ever trickle down to be meaningful in terms of doing anything. We know we've got to get in there and get feedback with the people doing stuff. So we were in schools doing some stuff trying to stop kids from becoming violent and aggressive. And we knew we couldn't be in there all the time. So what we did is we said, you know what? We'll pay you if you volunteer a huge amount of money, teachers. We'll pay you $400 a year. You can buy that house in Tahiti, right? What we want you to do is you're going to surrender 20 minutes of one of your planning periods 2 out of 3 weeks every week, every 3 weeks. What we're going to do is ask you to form 3 people that you trust and like. The only requirement is you cannot have the same planning period. So this week, Lori is the host teacher. At some point, Kathy's going to take one of her planning periods, take 20 minutes of it, and go and observe Lori teaching. She's then going to tell Lori 2 things she saw Lori do that were good, and 2 things she could improve upon. Now, it could be based upon some things that we've been talking about. You know, part of our in-service, or it could be that Lori's saying, watch me with Randy, because I'm going to rip that little guy's head off. right? But we're going to get feedback on something that Lori's doing. A little later in the week, Sarah's going to go in and watch Lori. So Lori's going to get feedback from 2 peers, no evaluation, just feedback, on 2 things she did well and 2 things she'd improved upon from each one of them. The next week, Sarah's the host teacher. These 2 are going to go in. The next week, Kathy's the host teacher. So in 3 weeks, I get feedback twice, I give feedback twice. We did this as part of an aggression study. We, in fact, did reduce aggression. All right? What was more interesting is that we improved math and reading scores, and we never talked about math and reading once in the intervention. We increased teaching time. Because all of a sudden teachers were beginning to get feedback about how they were getting in their own way. And they could start improving their teaching. Now what was even more powerful for me is that after we did what all good university professors did, we did our study, grabbed our data, ran back to the university, published so we wouldn't perish, never to darken the doorsteps of those schools again. But 5 years following that, I had a doctoral student that had to do a dissertation. And what she decided to do as her topic was, how long do interventions last after university faculty leave? And so she identified a number of studies that various university faculty had done from different colleges, and went to the schools to see what was still in place. Did anything actually get institutionalized and stay put? What she found was from our peer triad that 53% of our teachers, 53%, 5 years after the intervention, were still meeting weekly with no support whatsoever. That they found this valuable enough to have input about what the heck I'm doing when I'm standing up here in front of each other, that they kept doing it. Now we've done 2 studies since then, not based as part of another intervention, just looking at trying to get the peer triad program itself working. One thing we found is that you pretty much have to have some structure. So what we've done now is we usually get together and we have teachers identify issues that are of concern, and we put together almost like a small reading list of kind of easy to read materials, and then assign, have teachers volunteer. You're going to do the one on, you're going to lead the discussion as a brown bag lunch, and then that's one of the things they're going to look for during that next month, feedback around that, to give it a little structure to make it last. But we have found huge improvements by finding ways to get teachers feedback. This FBA process is a powerful way to start giving teachers meaningful feedback. We've had some schools who have built this into automatic triggers. The 3rd time you're sent to the office as a kid, somebody's going to come observe what's going on in that classroom. Because somewhere there's a miss between the child's characteristics, the requirements of the class, and the teaching behaviors. Something's not working. Can we identify, not trying to fix the problem or to fix the blame, we're trying to fix the problem. The 5th time a teacher sends somebody, whether it's the same kid or 5 different kids, somebody's going to come in and watch what's going on. Maybe you're a teacher that's just a little too quick to get into a power struggle. Maybe you're a new teacher that's got the class from hell. But whatever it is, we're going to find out. Okay? And then we make sure that those things feed back in to the in-service programs in terms of what's supporting teachers. We want to consider those peer social networks. As you're developing your plans in terms of dealing with kids, make sure that you're not putting all your troubled kids together all the time, because you're kind of working against yourself. Rethink your suspensions, your in-school suspensions, some of those kind of things. Monitor your interventions, your implementation, and remember that change is like going to heaven. Everybody thinks it's a good idea, but nobody wants to go first. Okay? What you were trying to be here are change agents. You're asking to change. And what that requires is that I'm not going to change just the child. I'm going to change the setting. Because if all I do is change the child and put them right back in that same setting, it's not going to work. All right? That means you're going to have to do things that you've never done before. You've got to talk to teachers about their behavior. You've got to look at the structures you've got to put kids in. And you've got to look at the kids. All right, let me stop and see what questions people have. Comments? Yes?
I'm wondering if you're directing the consequence as the function of the behavior. So 2 students perform the same behavior. They're both wrong. They serve different functions. You provide different punishments. Do you get a lot of the students complaining, well, that's not fair?
Absolutely. You're going to get every student. And the thing is that's interesting is that most kids realize this is a game. But there's always the young Clarence Darrow who's going to say, well, that's not fair. Michael did the very same thing, and you're doing this. Why do I get this? And part of what you can say is that fair is not equal. Fair is giving people what they need. All right? Fair being equal is an 8-year-old morality level. Between 8 and 10 years old, if you look at Kohlberg's moral development, we begin to be able to recognize that equal is not the same thing. Part of what we got to do is we got to start teaching kids this. That's an important part of what we should be teaching, is that The reason you're doing it is different than the reason he is doing it, and we're dealing with what you need. I'm giving you what you need. Now again, remember, when you're doing things that are instructional, not just punishment, you're less likely to get that. You're less likely to get parents calling up and saying, what the hell are you doing putting my little Billy in a skills group during recess? When they call up, it's when, what are you doing taking Billy out of recess for a week? He needs recess. They don't call when you say, what I'm doing is putting him in a place where he's going to learn. Oh, okay. So as long as I can defend what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, we shouldn't be afraid to say that. This is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it. And they have the right to ask, and I better have a good answer. But I shouldn't back down from it. One of the things that makes me nuts is that I spend a lot of time in due process kind of hearings defending schools who engaged in stupid behavior intervention plans. One, because it's what we do for all kids. That's a really hard thing to defend. Okay? In other cases, it's because it's what the parents wanted. I've seen educational programs where a school has moved completely away from what they can defend from an educational standpoint because that's what the parents wanted. The problem is that the parents don't have to know what they want. We have to know what kids need. There's a school right now that called me up. They've been giving this kid was an inclusion child who they've been moving away. The kid needed a very functional curriculum, a number of things. They always gave in, put him in the regular classroom, regular curriculum. The child can now, she's a very, very severely involved child. They can't find a group home anywhere that'll touch this kid because she doesn't have any of the skills she needs to be able to live. The family is now suing the school for compensatory time because, damn it, you should have known that this is what this kid needed. Why did you listen to us? I think they'll win. Because when we say yes, we're putting our stamp of approval. This is educationally sound. So we've got a bigger set of responsibilities. We've got some jobs to do to help educate parents and to defend it from a scientific standpoint. But you're going to, oh, absolutely. I've actually had kids say, oh, do you want to be treated exactly the same? Is that what you're telling me, Sarah? You want to be treated exactly like Lori? It might be, I say, okay, well, we'll do, from now on, you're connected to Lori for the next 2 days. You can't go to the bathroom unless Lori has to go. Right? You're going to do everything Lori does and nothing else. About an hour and a half, most kids are going, I get it, want off of this, this is a bad horse, I don't want on this horse anymore. Okay? So you can play with some stuff sometimes if your kids will lend into it. But it's an important lesson to help kids realize that because they're going to be parents someday, but they should learn some of these things. Other questions, comments? Go home and prosper. My email address is on there. I am not religious about email, but I will ultimately get there if you have questions, comments, concerns, issues. If you've got an FBA that you've done and you want to take the names off to protect the guilty and get some feedback, feel free to send me one. I'll go over it and send it back to you. If you do email me, though, be sure you put down a note, like in the reasons section, because if it's just a name and there's nothing about what it is, I don't even open them. I just dump them. So make sure you put, like, from the in-service or something.